Hey everybody, welcome to Christian Podcasting Secrets. I'm your host, Tammy Munton, and I am so glad that you are here with me because, friend, I got some good news and some bad news. It's not anything that serious. The holiday season is here. For some of you, you might be like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I'm so happy. And then for others, like, seriously? Yeah. And for those that are hosting a podcast, it can be challenging to keep up with all the things during this time of the year. So today we're diving into a hot topic. What to do with your podcast during the holidays. Do you keep rolling? Do you take a break? Do you do a mix of both? What else can you do? We're getting into all the things today. So let's dive in. Now, before we get into any holiday talk, I want to just pause and recognize another important day, Veterans Day. Now, Veterans Day means a lot to me personally. My husband, my brothers, and many dear friends have served and are still currently serving. And their sacrifices are something that I am deeply grateful for. They're truly my heroes. November is also Military Family Month, and I just want to take a moment to remember and thank the families who support our veterans, all of our veterans, past and present. For those of you that don't know, for 6 years, my husband was active duty, and we were a active duty military family, which included a year-long deployment when my husband was in Afghanistan for a year. It's hard. It's a hard life sometimes. There's lots of really cool things, but with the good also come the bad or the not so great. So I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you to everyone for all that you do. And if you know a veteran, take a moment to thank them. Even a small gesture goes a long way to show appreciation for all that they do. And it's a lot. Okay. Like I said at the top of the show, the holidays are officially here. This past weekend, I saw the very first holiday commercial, courtesy of our friends over at Old Navy. And I got a little happy because Christmas time is my favorite time of year and I do love it. But also was like, wait, what? Yep, they're here. And all the ads will be coming very shortly, I'm sure. So I wanted to do an episode about this, about when you're hosting a podcast, what do you do? And this is really one of the biggest questions that I get from clients is, what do I do with my podcast during the holidays? Because numbers do often dip in November and December. We're all busy, right? And we do know that a lot of people listen to podcasts while they're traveling, or maybe when they just need some downtime from all the family and all the other things, maybe their mother-in-law, But it's definitely a thing. And I know a lot of people wrestle with the idea of taking a break during the holidays, taking a break from their podcast during the holidays. And let me just say this. I'm going to get a little bossy Tammy today. If you feel like you need a break, I want you to take one. Your audience will be fine. But if you're feeling in your spirit, I could really use a break right now, I want you to take it. Because podcasting is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So when we feel ourselves getting stressed and exhausted and tired and all the other things, we need to give our body and our minds that break. And the holidays are a perfect time to do it. Remember, even Jesus rested. Mark chapter 6, verse 31. And the thing about taking a break is that it can recharge your creative energy for the new year. That was me a couple years ago. I was juggling doing my own podcast, managing podcasts for our clients, the holiday parties, the family events, the prep for the holidays, the gift buying, all the things, right? But by the time Christmas actually got here, I was drained. I was utterly exhausted. So I decided that I was going to take a break from my podcast. I mentioned that I was going to be taking a short little break from the podcast for about 2 weeks. I told my listeners ahead of time, send messages out via email and on social media, and it was amazing. It was great for my well-being, my mental health, but also I noticed that when I returned, I had more energy. I had fresh ideas to get going with the next series of episodes that we were doing. And it was so amazing that we continue to do that. We will do that again this year, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a future episode. But we also do it at Wildfire. We close down for 2 weeks, and it's really become a game changer. Now, if you are a client listening to this episode, thank you so very much. We appreciate you greatly. You probably have already received a message about us being closed down. If you have not, I want you to send us a message and we will gladly tell you which episodes that is affecting. But the moral of this story, y'all, is this. If you need a break, I want you to take one. Just make sure that your audience knows about the break, post it on social media several times so that everybody sees it, put it in your email newsletter, send a special email out to everybody, and don't forget, include it in your last show or a couple of the shows leading up to that before you go offline, so nobody's wondering like, oh my gosh, did she pod fade? Where is she? The other thing that you also want to do, if you have any exciting episodes coming up, or maybe a series that you're going to be doing in January, you want to mention those things. Give them a little something to look forward to. Now, if you choose not to do a break and you're going to continue to publish through the holiday season, I wanted to talk with you about some fun, different type of content ideas for the holidays. Because the season is all about joy and family and gratitude, or at least it should be. And I hope that it is for you. And these, my friend, are all wonderful themes for holiday podcast episodes. Now, the first thing that you could do is switch up the format. So let's say you normally have an interview-based show. Maybe do several solo episodes. You could share a personal story, you could reflect on the year, or you could even dive deeper into a topic that you're passionate about. You could share stories about your traditions surrounding Christmas. You could talk about what you're looking forward to in 2025. And that just feels weird saying 2025. But here we are. But there's lots of ways that you could switch up this format to kind of make it feel a little bit different, a little more special. Now, of course, you could always create holiday-themed episodes. You want to look at, are there any holiday topics that fit your show? So let's say your show talks a lot about family. Maybe you could do a dealing with holiday stress episode. If you have a Christian-based podcast or a faith-based podcast, you could talk about gratitude or reflect on what 2024 meant to you. You could talk about your word of the year for 2024 and did it live up to that? And what are you going to be doing for 2025? All really great ideas to kind of help you plan for holiday shows. Now, my friend Allie over at the Allie Worthington Show has a fantastic holiday tradition that she does. Usually the last 2 episodes of the year, she reads a chapter from her book as one of those episodes. Now, it's great. She reads a little bit from the book and she kind of riffs for a little bit about the whatever chapter she's reading about, gives some insight into all of those things. But and if you're an author, you could do something very similar. Read a chapter from your latest book. Find a chapter that you know is going to resonate with your audience and record that. Maybe you're working on a new book as an author or a new project. You could share a sneak peek of a favorite chapter. Maybe it's something from a course that you're working on. almost like a little early Christmas gift for your audience. Just remember, we want to try and keep it light and joyful for the season. We don't really want to dive into hard topics. Those topics are very important, and there's time and space for those topics, but we want to try and keep it on the lighter side, on the positive side. The holidays can be hard enough as it is. Now, another idea is you could switch up your release schedule a bit. So let's say your usual publishing day falls on Christmas Day. There's probably not going to be a whole lot of people listening that day. Depending on what your podcast is, but I'm going to say there's probably not going to be a whole lot of people. You could post a day earlier or a couple of days earlier. You don't have to just post on that day. Of course, we want to try and stay consistent with all things, but this is a little bit different. Now, this happened to a friend of mine last year. The day that she normally published was on Christmas Day and New Year's Day. She has a weekly podcast. And what she did was really very cool. So she decided to release a day early, and she did her podcast, but she did it live with her audience in her Riverside studio. And then she live streamed it to Facebook and YouTube. So it was this very interactive, way different type of episode. And her audience absolutely loved it. So if that is something that you are interested in doing, but you're not really sure how to make the tech work, shoot us an email at hello@wildfirecreativecompany.com, and we will get you that specific information. Now, one of my favorite tips for holiday episodes, and whether that's Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving, in the summer, whatever, it's to take an older episode and repurpose it. Because it's going to save you time, and it's going to give your audience some great content and lets you maintain that consistency without having to create brand new content, right? You could ask your listeners to vote on what their favorite episodes are. You could run a whole thing over through social and through your email list, asking them what their favorites are. And then you would pick, a handful of them, depending on how many episodes you are going to produce over the holiday season. So maybe you decide to do the last 4 episodes of the year are going to be these repurposed episodes. And all you have to do is add a fresh intro, call to action, and outro to each of those episodes, and voila, you're done. And your audience is going to love it. They have picked these episodes. Now, you could also do the same thing if you maybe want to run a particular theme during those last 4 episodes. However you choose to do it, because it gives you a little bit of breathing room as you're trying to get through all the things. Now, one more thing that I would like to mention is if you are thinking about launching a podcast or a new podcast in January, the time is now to start planning that. Not next month. You want to start today. And yeah, you could technically launch a podcast in a much shorter amount of time, but trust me when I say it's just not ideal. You want to give yourself time to plan and research, to record and edit, and prepare for your launch, especially if you want to be really intentional and have a smooth start to your show. Because when we rush to try and get all the things done, I want to ensure that your podcast shines right out of the gate. And that's why I think it's so important for you to take some time to build that solid foundation for your show. So if you are looking for some one-on-one guidance, I would love to help you with that. You can check out our quick launch podcast service. It's everything that you need to know to get your show off the ground in less than 8 weeks, with a clear strategy and, of course, some personalized coaching from me. Or if you are more of the I want to do it myself DIYer, you can download our free podcast launch guide. It is packed with all the steps that you need to help you go from idea to launch without feeling overwhelmed. And couldn't we all use a little more of that? I'm going to drop both of those links in the show notes for you. Now, friends, remember, the holiday season is about joy, gratitude, and rest, not just hustling through it. So if you are feeling stressed, I do want you to take a step back. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 19 through 20 reminds us that we are temples of the Holy Spirit, and we need to prioritize our self-care, because your podcast is going to be even better because we make great content when we're healthy and well. Now, friend, if this episode helped you, would you share it with 2 friends? And please don't forget to leave a review. Every review helps others find out about the show and keeps this community growing. So thank you so much for listening today. I hope that you have a great week, and I will talk to you next Wednesday. Bye, y'all.